Okay, everyone, welcome back to Breslov Efrat here at Shira David, Baruch Hashem. We had a wonderful Nate's menu today with 3 kahana. Wow, we're getting there, Baruch Hashem. The brachas are triple today. Amazing. Wow, Baruch Hashem. Trifecta, excellent. Okay, so, we're going to continue our lessons in Likutey Halachos with Siyata D'Shmaya, of course. We're in Hilchos Tzizit, Halacha Hey. And today we're going to learn letter Chav Hey 25. And Rav Nosson is going to now take the lessons that we had for the past, since the beginning of Halacha Hey. Okay, we're up to now letter 25. And he's going to tie this all together, all the things we learned, he's going to bring it into Purim right now. Now, how do you like that? How we're learning about Purim now.
Yeah.
We're just a couple of days before Purim. Today is Ches Adar, right? We're getting there. So we were learning this concept, this wonderful concept of how you can have a tefillah b'koyach, right? You can have that tefillah, you can have a tefillah, a prayer, that you do it with power, with might. And we said a tefillah b'koyach can actually go into the throat of the sitra achra of the other side, that it's swallowed up a lot of things, holy sparks of kedusha, many of your tefillas, many of your avodas Hashem, things that didn't go in the right way, he took them. But when a person can get that moment, that tefillah, that moment, turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and feel Hashem in His presence right there, and talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that way, he can then go into the throat of the sitra achra and take back all of that. And we learned that's what happened with Sarah Imenu, right? Sarah Imenu was taken into the house of both Paroi and Avimelech, right? Why was she taken into the house of both Paroi and Avimelech? And each time Avram Avinu walked away with wealth, right? Every time Sarah Imenu was taken into these houses, Avram Avinu gained wealth. But again, was Avram Avinu ever concerned about his physical wealth? No, he didn't care about that. But attached to the money is there is holiness. There's holiness attached to money. Money has holiness attached to it, and the other side likes to take that, and he takes the holiness for himself. That's why the Avimelech and Pari both felt compelled. They felt they had to give over money, because with the money came holiness. With the money came the holiness. Amazing ideas. So now we're going to learn this idea when it came to Esther Malka. Esther Malka was also taken into the house of a Russia, right? Was also taken into the house of the Russia, right? Achashverosh didn't love Jews at all. He didn't like Jews at all. He perhaps hated Jews even more than Haman hated Jews, right? Do you agree? Do we agree with that? Do we agree with that, guys? No.
I don't know. I don't know if I got that.
Yeah, you think he loved Jews, right?
I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question. Mordechai. This guy Haman comes to him and says to him, "I'm going to give you this silver. I want to kill all the Jews." If he loved Jews, what would he say? Hey, come on, you know how much money I have? You know how much money I have? Come, you want to take a look? You want to see my store? You know what I mean? He had all of the jewels and all of the riches from the Nebuchadnezzar. He had everything. He needed that money? Did he need the money? It didn't change anything for him, that money. It was a lot of money, but he was fabulously wealthy. So why would he have, what do I need your money for? These are my Jews. I want them.
Well, why does anybody need more money? I mean,
I got it. I understand. But then he said, I'm going to destroy all. I want to kill all the Jews. I want to kill all of them. Every one of them. And what does he say? Okay. Here's my ring. Go stamp whatever you want. That means he liked them, right?
Money on the table.
He liked them, right?
No,
I'm just trying to show you. But based on his action, you could see maybe he didn't originally say, he didn't propose the idea, but once someone proposed the idea, he was very grateful. He was very happy about that.
But maybe not for the reason we're thinking. It could be because, oh, good, I'll add to my chest of power and wealth.
So he's gonna destroy millions of people, right? Because he wants a little more money in his chest. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, how about this? I don't agree with
I
you.
mean, why
I don't agree with
why
you.
does someone like people who have billions of dollars need to have more? They're just stuck in this. I have to have more. Whoever I can get more is okay.
If he wanted more money and he loved his Jews, he would have taken Haman. He would have said, "Off with your head! That you are coming to me with such a proposition to kill all of my Jews." And then he would have taken the briefcase and put it in his chest, in his treasure chest. So then what? He could have done that too, right?
I don't know. I wasn't.
Oh
there.
no. Okay. Let's just think a different way. Okay, this guy comes to him. He loves his Jews, right? He loves his Jews, and this guy comes to him and he says, "I want to kill all your Jews. Here's my silver." He could have said, "Take this guy out to the gallows," and had the silver. Why didn't he do that? He'll rather kill a million Jews or one guy. What's your answer for that, please, sir?
I don't have any.
Okay, good. Okay. Achashverosh didn't like the Jews. And again, Achashverosh had to come and take, and Esther Amalka had to go into his palace. Had to be his queen. Had to be his queen. It's an unbelievable idea. If we know, it was a very strange thing, because when Achashverosh was looking for his wife, right? So he winds up picking Esther Amalka, right? Do you know that Esther Amalka was an ageable lady? You know, she wasn't a young lady. She went into exile with Mordechai before the destruction of the temple. That was about 70 years. I mean, she was about 75 years old. Esther was about 75 years old when this took place. Did you ever know that? No, you read the history.
I knew that he was.
She went into exile. She went into exile from Israel. She went with Mordechai from Israel. She went into exile. So she went into exile with Mordechai.
70 years before that.
It was 70 years before that. So they said she was about 75 years old. She was about 5 years old at the time when she traveled with Mordechai. Unbelievable, right? So you see again. And look, Sari Menu. How old was Sari Menu when she was taken into Avimelech's house?
Something like that. 80
Yeah. See, interesting, very interesting, right? Right, very, very interesting. Just something to think about. Okay, so let's see what happened here. Now, Chav Hey, right, and the city of Shushan was joyful and full of joy. And Mordechai went out in front of the king, Belavush Malchus Techelis V'chor, right? The famous song. Right now. He went out and he was wearing royal garments. Mordechai was wearing royal garments, right? So it was amazing transformation what took place, right? There was Mr. Haman that gave him some silver. He gave the silver to Achashverosh, and Achashverosh he increased his bottom line, right? He increased his because of that. Now he said, "I don't need you no more. I have your silver. And Mordechai, you take over his house too." Amazing, right? So how did that happen? Ki gedulas Mordechai shu aneis hagadol v'anoira ma'oid shel Purim. Because the greatness of Mordechai, that is the nace, that is the great miracle, the awesome miracle of Purim. Hakol hoya al yedei bechinas hatfila bechinas din shel habal koyach. All of this happened again. The whole story of Purim happened through that tefillah shebedin. The tefillah shebedin. Mordechai the whole time understood it's not you, Haman. It's not you, Haman, that's making this decree, right? He understood that. He understood this was the decree in Shemayim. It was the decree that Hashem signed, that Hashem sealed. Anytime it says in the Megillah, Hamelech, without saying Hamelech Achashverosh, we know that that's Hashem. So when it says the Melech signed and stamped, so that means that was signed and stamped in Shemayim. Why? Because we were involved in Avodah Zarah when it came to Nebuchadnezzar, right? We were involved in Avodah Zarah when it came to Nebuchadnezzar. Then we were involved in that Suda, that meal that Achashverosh made. But Mordechai pleaded everyone, don't go, don't get involved in that. And everyone said to him, but why, Mordechai? They're going to have it's going to be, Yerushalayim B'datz Hechsher, and they're going to have the wine from the greatest things, and there's going to be only Jewish people serving the wine. This is going to be the party of parties.
So you said that any time in the Megillah when they just say Hamelech,
plain, yes.
That's Hashem.
That's referring to Hashem. It's referring
Anytime
to
they're
Hashem.
referring to Melech Ashweris, they say Ashweris.
You'll see that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You'll see that when you read the Megillah. You'll see sometimes it says Hamelech Achashverosh, and then sometimes it says Hamelech.
Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, I knew that.
Another as Shnas Hamelech.
I knew it was so
When it says when Haman came to the palace, right, and he wanted to tell Achashverosh his great news that he had about the big pole in the middle of the night, right? So it says another Shnas Hamelech. Doesn't say Hamelech Achashverosh. That was Hashem. Hashem was, so to say, worried about the situation.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But why was Hashem worried? Because Mordechai was davening at Tefillah of Shebekaya. He didn't blame. It wasn't this guy. He understood it was really Hashem, and he turned it. He put it back to Hashem. He realized it's not Mordechai. It's not Haman. See, we would think today it's Putin, and we think it's this guy in Iran, and we think it's these Biden, and we think these guys, right? But it's not them. It's really all these things are happening because Hashem wants them to happen. And when we give it, when we see through it, and we know it's not them, it's really Hashem, and we turn to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's a tefillah shebedin, because you understand. You're so to say putting out. It's din by itself. Think about it. You're realizing, you're coming up to a conclusion that it's not this person, it's not that person, it's Hashem. So Mordechai HaTzadik, he was doing this. And that's how we were able to subdue Amalek. We're learning in the classes with Rav Aaron, right? The whole idea of this whole thing of Mechias Amalek, Sechiras Amalek, right? So how can you really get rid of Amalek? Davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that way, when you recognize that the situation you find yourself in is not because of this or that person. It's because Hashem wants me in this situation. And when you daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that way, that's a tefillah shebedin. And that's how we can get rid of Amalek, and that's how we can get rid of all of our enemies. We don't blame everyone else. We're always blaming people. It's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's this group, it's the liberals, it's this, right? We blame everybody, right? But really, is it them? It's really Hashem. And when we turn it back and we recognize it's really HaKadosh Baruch Hu causing these people to say these things and do all of these things, it's a whole different light. And that's how we can actually get rid of our enemies. Shu Haman HaRasha, we know is Haman HaGogi, he's from Amalek, Yemach Shemai, his name should be eradicated. Now, that was the whole idea when Yisro came. When Yisro came to Moshe, right? He saw that, what did he hear? He heard about Kriyas Yamsef and Melchemes Amalek. He heard about those two things. Yisro heard about those two things and he came. Why did he come at that time? Because he said, wow, can it be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Klal Yisrael through the Yamsuf, through the sea? And then you'll ask, how did he know about it? We know that the miracle was that no matter who had a cup of water, or someone was taking a bath, or someone was swimming in a pool, or whatever they were doing, the water all split. So he knew, well, something's going on here. Water doesn't normally split, right? And then he heard that Amalek came and attacked. So he came and he wanted to learn, he wanted to see the real thing. Unbelievable. But anyway, so that's the thing that we're learning about Tefillah Shebekoyach. And therefore the main miracle happened. See, we read the story, we say, oh, this poor Esther had to go into the house of Achashverosh. And yes, it was poor Esther that had to go into the house of Achashverosh. But really the whole story happened only because she was taken into his house. That's how the miracle happened. The whole miracle happened that way. If she wasn't in the house, none of this story would have happened. Right? The Medrash says that when Esther Amalka became queen, so she approached Achashverosh and she said to Achashverosh, wouldn't you want to do smart things like Nebuchadnezzar did? So he said, yeah, what kind of things? What do you mean? She said, well, you should have someone in security that understands all the languages, so they'll know if someone's plotting against you. So he said to her, that's a wonderful idea. Do you know somebody? She says, yeah, I do. I know this guy Mordechai. He knows all the steps because he was part of the Sanhedrin, right? He was part of the Sanhedrin, so he knew all the languages. He knew all 70 languages. So she said, yeah, there's a guy Mordechai. He knows all the languages and he's a very trustworthy person. He says, fine, I'll take him. And you see, from that point, it says, Mordechai Yoshev B'Shar HaMelech. Mordechai was sitting at the gate of the king, of the palace. Every time you see Mordechai goes back to the gate of the palace. What's he doing there? You ever ask yourself that? It didn't say he went to the Beis Medrash. It didn't say he went to the shul. Right? It says he went back to the Shar HaMelech. You know what he was doing there? He worked for Achashverosh. He was working for him. Right? And that's why when Bigson and Saras, when they made that plot, he overheard it. He told it to Esther Amalka. She was in the palace. She told it over to Achashverosh B'Shem Mordechai in his name, right? Remember that's what happened, right? And that's how the story happened. She wasn't in the palace. Mordechai wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have heard about anything. Nothing would have happened. You understand? Unbelievable. Esther Amalka, when she went into the palace, that's the same idea that Sari Menu went into the house of Avimelech. Sari Menu had to go into the house of Parai. Esther Malka goes into the house of Achashverosh. She goes into his house because she does battle with him. He thinks, Achashverosh thought he was going to be able to violate her. But what does she do? She comes and attacks. And that's what Sari Mena did, and that's what Esther Amalka did. The Gemara says that there was a shade, there was a demon that had the same, it looked exactly like Esther Amalka, looked just like her. And every time Achashverosh was with Esther Amalka, he was with the demon. He wasn't with her. The Gemara says that she went to be Toivel and she went home to be with Mordechai. She was married to Mordechai. Right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Right? Avram Avinu, Sarah, Mordechai, and Esther. His wife is taken into the house of Achashverosh. Sarah was taken into the house of Abimelech. You see these connections? Unbelievable, right?
So Daryovesh would be
Well, whatever.
the demon's son?
Yeah. Daryovesh was the king. Yeah.
You heard that her son.
Jewish.
Who knows? Listen, I can only tell you what the Gemara says. It's brought down in the Medrash. This is what these are not my ideas. You've heard this before. Okay. Anyway, says okay. Kirak sham hoya rak lefi shah kala. No. Baldin. Right, and that's the same idea, like we mentioned a moment ago. Why Sari may not have to go, but that rak sham hoya rak lefi shah kala. It was only for a short time. She did what she had to do, and then she was able to be released. You see, at the time when Sarah was taken into Avimelech and she went to Parai, there wasn't such a judgment against Klal Yisrael at that time. We weren't in existence yet. But over here at this time, this was a different problem now. Now we were in existence, and most of Klal Yisrael was actually Chayev Misa. We were actually obligated to be put to death because of the things that we did. So here, Esther Amalka goes to Achashverosh, and she has to go there, and she has a big job to do. She has a big job to do. I'd like to say it's almost a job compared to what Moshe Rabbeinu had to do to save Klal Yisrael after the Cheder Egel, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to destroy all the people, and I'll make a new nation with you. Mordechai goes to bat. Moshe goes to bat for Klal Yisrael. Here, Esther Amalka goes to bat for Klal Yisrael. V'kum aleinu Adam Bilial. Haman Arasha Yemach Shemai Shu Hamalek. Haman Yemach Shemai. We can bang off it, right? Shu Hamalek. He's Amalek. Zumas HaNachash Ba'atzmai. He is the impurity, the filth of the Nachash, that same Nachash HaKadmoni, that original Nachash that was in Gan Eden. He's now the Nachash. He now wants to put his impurity, his filth into Klal Yisrael. Asher Hashem Yisbarach ba'atzmai loichem imay tamid b'shvil Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, as it says in the Torah, right? Hashem is fighting the battle for Amalek, for Klal Yisrael. Kamay shekasa milchama la'Hashem ba'Amalek midor dar. Milchama la'Hashem. What does milchama la'Hashem mean? It's a war for Hashem. It's a war to Hashem. Ba'Amalek midor dar, from every single generation. So Hashem is fighting the battle, the evil. It's a pure evil. It's a pure evil. It's purely evil. And only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can fight that evil. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can fight against it. Umachmas taikef hadin, sheis gabra zu masanochesh me'oid, shu haman arasha yemach shemai. And because the din was so strong, how Haman had the nerve, the audacity to come to the king and offer him money to take the lives of millions of people. Taikif hadin. She's Gabra Zuma Sanochish Ma'oid, Shu Haman Arasha Yemach Shemai. That he had the nerve to do that. That he felt that, the ability, he felt that he can do such a thing. Valkin Huchucha Esther Shetia Nis Peses Lebeis HaMelech. And therefore she had to be added, Esther Amalka had to be added. She had to be added to the house of the king. Vigam Hu Loi Nogaba. And he never touched her. Vigam Hu Loi Nogaba. What does that mean, Sasha?
Never touched her.
He never touched her, you see? Kemuva Batikunim. You can find it in Tikkun Zayir. Chaf Aleph Nun Vav. Uvegaydel Kaicha Haitzia Mea Sitracha Kol Kedushais Vitz Naitzis HaKedushais. And through that she was able to extract from Achashverosh and from Haman. She was able to take back from them all of their holiness, all of the sparks of holiness that they stole from Klal Yisrael, and she was able to elevate them. Acha sitrachu hu Haman uveisai naflu b'mapola she'ein lo tekuma. Until Haman and his whole house fell down, that they had a fall that they'll never be able to come up from. It was such a great fall they took. It was a catastrophic fall they had. Would you like to say that? Can we say that? It was a catastrophic fall. V'nasan kol beisai urechushay leMordechai HaYehudi. So again, when it came to Sari Meinu, she went to Avimelech. He got 1,000 silver coins. Remember, Avram Avinu got 1,000. Here, Esther Amalka was in the palace for so long. It wasn't a short time. She took over all of the riches. She took everything over from him. Everything they wound up taking. Rechusha leMordechai HaYehudi was given back to Mordechai. You see the same thing that happened here? You see the resemblance? What's going on? Sarah is taken into the house of Avimelech, and then he gives back money to Avram Avinu. That was a short time, so you got a little bit of money, because there's only a little bit of sparks of Kedusha. Here, Here, there was so much there. There was so much there. All of those Jews that went to that party, and they made their brachas at the party, right? I'm going to say that every Jew made a bracha. They drank the wine, they made a bari priagafen, they ate the bread, they made a motzi lechem minarz, they did all these things. But the whole party was impure. The whole thing was. So all of those brachas went to the other side. All of the mitzvahs that they were doing there went to the other side because the whole thing was off. Do you follow? So now there was so much sparks of Kedusha, so much, and Esther Amalka was able to go to battle against Achashverosh. You see how the lesson fits together. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then Vinasan Kol Beisa, his whole house of Haman, Urechusha, and his vast wealth. He was fabulously wealthy. Mordechai Ayudi, the same guy that he said, V'chol zeh einenu shaveh li. Remember? He said that all of this is not, as long as Mordechai is going to sit over there, he's sitting b'shar HaMelech, V'chol zeh einenu shaveh li. Haman had everything. He had power. He had money. He had children. He had everything. He had everything. But V'chol zeh einenu shaveh li, by the way, that's Hashem right there. You know that. V'chol zeh einenu shaveh li. That's the Isis of Yud Kei Vav Kei in that line. V'chol zeh einenu shaveh li. You do it, you'll see. Shekol zeh haya yedei hatzedekes Esther, through the great tzedekes Esther Amalka, k'may shekosav atosem Esther es Mordechai al beis Haman. And Esther was placed Mordechai on the house of Haman. Vayedei zeh olu kol tzitzitzis hakedoshim hamavushim ba'ashirus shahaya kovush eitzel asitracha. And through that action, what she did by giving over the house, giving over Haman's house to Mordechai, and that rechush, that wealth, she was able to give over that all of the sparks of holiness that were trapped in that house, that were enclosed in the riches. Ba'ashiris haya kovush eitzel asitracha. It was conquered by the sitracha. Eitzel Haman ubeisa yamach shemam. It was in his house. It was in the control of Haman. Kulam chazru va'olu el kedusha leMordechai Yehudi. All of them, the whole kit and caboodle was taken back. The whole kit and caboodle was taken back from Haman and all that he stole from the Nachash. The Sitra Achra, the Satan, it's all Haman, all him. He took all of that from Klal Yisrael. Esther Malka gives base Haman to who? To Mordechai. It takes back all of the sparks of holiness and he lifts up everything. And we said that's a Yerushenu Kel. Remember we said that yesterday? We learned that? Yerushenu, this became a Yerusha, a godly Yerusha. Because we now took back all of this wealth that we lost, the mitzvahs and the Torah, and our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was lost, that went south, that went far away from us. Now it came back. Shekol zeh nasa al yedei bechinas hatfilah bechinas din shel habal koyach. All of this happens through the tefillah shebedin shel habal koyach. Mordechai and Esther, they're davening to Hashem. They recognize that this is the decree of Hashem. This is not the decree of Haman. This is not Achashverosh's decree. This is the decree from Hashem. Tefillah shebedin she'amda bebeis habliya shelahem. And she was able to go into their throats, and she was able to extract. That was the real destruction. That's how Haman was destroyed. She went in to the throat of the Sitra Achra. She strangled the Sitra Achra. Which actually was the life force of Haman. And that's how Haman was put to death. That's why he was put to death. Shezeh bechinas lekichas Esther lebeis hamelech le'inyan Sarah. The whole idea, the whole story of Esther being taken to the house of Achashverosh is the same story. It's the same story as Sarah being taken into the house of Avimelech, into the house of Parai. It's unbelievable how Rav Nosson puts these stories together. Would we ever think of thinking of these stories together before? No? Did you ever think to put these stories? You thought about it yet? You made those associations?
I've heard some others talk about it this way, not just.
Okay. All right. But it's
Not because I
fascinating.
know anything.
No, but it's fascinating, right?
yeah.
These are so, and you see how similar these stories are. It's fascinating.
It's all through the Torah.
Unbelievable. Valkin haya neis hayadei nidut hashena. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. What does nidut hashena mean? Insomnia. Insomnia, right? Nidut hashena? Insomnia. Right? Is that the right word? If you can't sleep. If you can't sleep, this is the word insomnia, right? Nidut hashena. K'may shekoseh b'layla hu noded hashnas hamelech. Remember I mentioned that a couple of minutes ago? Who I was on that day. The king had insomnia. He couldn't sleep. That's when the power of the nace started. Right at that, that's where it turned. The story started to turn. Right then and there. Right then and there, the story changed. Because there was the holding back of sleep. Again, whenever we hold back our sleep and we turn to Avodas Hashem, right? All the things that we're learning, right? We get up early in the morning. We wake up the morning, right? That's the idea of nidud hashena. That's the idea of holding back on my sleep. Because when I hold back my sleep, that's an idea of clarifying my imagination. A person imagines he needs so much sleep, right? People, mamish, I speak to people, it's unbelievable. They think, I need to sleep for 8 hours. I need to sleep. If I don't, I'm gonna have a migraine. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna have that. I said, are you a prophet? I would say to them, are you a prophet? If you don't sleep for 8 hours, you know that you're gonna have a migraine? So why don't you take something so you don't get your migraine? If you're a prophet. So take something. Do something. The whole idea, and why is that? Because it's, again, people's mind. It's their imagination. They imagine, I need more sleep. They imagine I need this. They imagine I need that. If only I had this, would I be happy? If only I had that, would I be happy? It's all imagination. It's all imagination. And any time I hold back my sleep and I take that time and I use that time for His Baididus, to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring me closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whenever I can do that, whenever I do that, that's clarifying my imagination. Look at this. If you fix your imagination, you don't have to sleep. Yaakov Avinu went for 12 years. He didn't sleep, remember? He was in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever. He didn't sleep for 12 years. Yaakov Avinu proved to us you don't have to sleep. You don't have to sleep. It's the imagination tells us you need to sleep. I need to sleep. I'm not saying, again, let's understand this. I'm not saying people shouldn't sleep. And we learned the idea of how to go to sleep the right way. And sleep is a very beneficial thing when you go to sleep in the right way. Right? If you say the Kriya Shema Lamita, and the person makes a calculation of his day. The person makes the calculation of his day. And he goes to sleep in that way, and he puts his trust in Hashem. When he goes to sleep, that sleep is a very beneficial sleep. But don't overdo it. Get up early, turn to Hashem, recognize what's important. And we say, how do we do that? Through looking at our tzitzis, right? The tasseled garment. You look at that tasseled garment, and you see those strings, and you remember what's important in life. Unbelievable. Look, you don't need to sleep. You see that? Because the whole idea of why I go to sleep is to clarify my imagination. That's why I go to sleep. But if I have a clear imagination, then I don't need to go to sleep. What's the purpose of going to sleep? To fix my imagination, to get me to think in the right way. But if I can think in the right way, then I don't need to sleep. You understand?
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying.
When a person's mind and his imagination and his thought process is so clear, he doesn't need to sleep. And through a tefillah of din, that's why Esther was taken there. As we learn so much, through Esther Amalka being in the palace, through Esther Amalka being in the palace, and through Esther Amalka davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that way all the time, all that time recognizing where she was. She understood where she was. She understood she was in a place of the headquarters of impurity of the world at that time. That's where she was living. That's where she had to live, in that place. She was davening 24/7 to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why are we in this situation? Hashem, why did you put us in this situation? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how are we going to get us out of this mess? Hashem, tefillah shebedin. You know, when a person's in a desperate, you daven, people, when things are going good, so you don't always daven the greatest, Hashem, right? But when a person has a problem, then he realizes, I need Hashem, right? Could you imagine Esther Amalka? She was a tzedekah. She'd always daven to Hashem. There's no question about it. But when she was put into that situation, that she's in that palace, could you imagine her feelings? Could you imagine her feelings of how she was detached? She was detached from Mordechai. She was detached from Klal Yisrael. She was detached and she was in this place. She's all herself in this place. But she knew she wasn't herself. She knew she was with Hashem. Right? She knew she was with Hashem, but she still was in that place. A very dark and dismal place. Spiritually, I don't mean, it may have been dark and dismal physically too, I don't know. But spiritually, we all agree, right, that it was a very dark and dismal place.
Separated from her husband.
Exactly. And she's in
Not
this...
just separated from her husband, living with this guy, living with an animal,
Literally an animal. Mamish, literally an animal. Through that, there was the absence of sleep. All of that comes from the Be'er Madama. So again, she caused the idea that Achashverosh couldn't sleep, that she caused a ruckus in Shemayim. She caused that ruckus in Shemayim with her tefillah. With Esther Amalka's tefillah, she caused a ruckus in heaven. And we all can do that. Mm-hmm. We all can cause a ruckus in Shemayim and cause good things for Klal Yisrael. We can fix things whenever we turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we don't blame people. We know it's you, Hashem. It's not this person's fault. It's not that person's fault. It's you, Hashem. That's a tefillah shebedin. Now look what he says. And through this was the great miracle. The whole Nes of Purim is to just subdue Amalek, right? That's what the whole idea is. That's what we have. We read the parsha of Amalek, the Shabbos before the Shabbos, right? Right? We read the parsha of Amalek, right? Because we have to remind ourselves. We have to get ready for that. The whole idea is to subdue Amalek. Lachniya, to subdue Amalek. Shu ikka kvirus v'apikursus, and that's the whole idea of the heresy in the world. We have this heresy in the world today more probably than ever was before, right? She was just trying to be megala the whole idea of Chiddush Olam. Yes, there was a decree yesterday, but that doesn't mean there has to be a decree today. There was the problem yesterday. That doesn't mean there has to be a problem today. This Chiddush Ha'olam. You see this? Sasha, you see this? This is amazing. She used all of the things we learned in all these lessons before. It's all coming together here now. And you see how Esther Amalka Mamish lived this lesson. She used all of these techniques, of all of these things that we were learning in the past few weeks. She used all of these techniques in order to subdue Haman, to subdue Amalek. Vayihi Adav Emuna, you know when that was? That was by Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Vayihi Adav Emuna, when we had that battle with Amalek, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu had his hands up, and then it said that we were winning. right? When Moshe Rabbeinu put his hands down, then we were losing. Remember? Remember that? Hanever Bilchemes Amalek. Shikam Apolos Amalek Hu Yedeyas Galus Emuna Kedosha. Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were Emuna. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that anything he did was because Hashem had him do it. Moshe Rabbeinu's his hands showed everybody Emuna. Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were Emuna. Unbelievable. His hands. They had Emuna Hashem when they saw Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were up. Malkin Hayi Iker Apolos Haman. And that was the destruction, the downcast of Amalek. Ayadei Nidud Hashena. Through the idea of Nidud Hashena, through the idea of the absence of sleep. Shu Bechinas Beira Medame. All of this is this idea of Beira Medame. All this idea is to clarify my thought. I know who it is. I know it's you, Hashem. I trust in you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not this person. It's not that one. I know it's Ein Oid Milvadai. It's only you, Hashem. And how do I do that? I use my tzitzis. Remember, Sorry Meinu had the Kesus Einayim. The Zohar said there was an idea of tzitzis, to see the tzitzis, the strings, to know to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shayadeizen is Gala Emuna Kedosha, through that, through Beira Medame, through clarifying the Medame, the imagination, clarifying one's thoughts. Clarifying one's thoughts, he can reveal Emuna, holy Emuna. When we have Emuna, when we're Mamin by Hashem, when we show our trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we put our trust in Hashem, that's how we get rid of our enemies. That's the way we get rid of our enemies. Putting our trust in them, not our trust in the soldiers, not our trust in the military strategies, not our trust in the missiles, none of that. We put our trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then watch everything gets fixed. That's how we get rid of our enemies.
Well, then why do we have weapons and all that kind of stuff?
To challenge our thoughts. Do I believe in the weapons that are going to keep me safe? Or is it Hashem? Again, Hashem wants in the world, He wants us to have in the world always that balance. Zelu mazeh asa lekim. Hashem keeps everything balanced. See, if we didn't have any weapons or anything, then we would have no choice but to trust in Hashem. Right? We would have no choice. If we didn't have weapons, if we didn't have an army, if we didn't have an air force, right? If we didn't have the military might, we would have no choice but to trust in Hashem. So Hashem gives us a military might, gives us the idea that we can trust in that, or do we trust in Hashem? That's my bechira, right? That's my free choice. Make sense? If we didn't have it, then we would have any choice but to trust in Hashem. But Hashem wants us to have free choice. Right? That's why all those idiots today are going to go picket all around Israel today, right?
I don't even understand that.
Yeah, they're idiots. Mamish idiots.
No.
None of them have any idea what they're doing. They're just going out there to make noise. That's all. They're just going out there to make noise. Because they put their trust in the government. They want to trust in the judicial system. Right? They're not trusting in Hashem. How do we get rid of our enemies? Through Emunah, trusting in Hashem. Look what it said. That's right. It says, if you raise your Emunah, fix your thoughts. Think the right way. It's you, Hashem. It's not the army. It's not the prime minister. It's not the judge. It's not the head justice of the Supreme Court. It's you, Hashem. That's how we get rid of them. And through this you can have the aura tzitzis, the light of the tzitzis. Look what it says. Sasha, how you like that? He went out, belevush malchus, the king's garments, techeles. They were blue. What color are tzitzis supposed to be?
Blue.
Look at the reference here. See that? I'm telling you that you can eat these words. They're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. They're so delicious. They're so delicious. Look how Rav Nosson put this together. Belavus malchus techeles. Zeh bechinas tzitzis. Sheyesh bahem techeles. That's the tzitzis that have in them the techeles. That blue color. That reminds you of the sea. That reminds you of the heavens. That reminds you of the Kisei HaKavod techeles. The throne of glory, right? Shehem ikir tikun v'noi kol malbushei kavod. That is the repair and the beauty of all of our garments. Of all of our garments, that is the beauty. It's not the fancy suit, designer suit, the designer shoes, none of that. No. What's really fancy, what's really nice is the tzitzis, and that's what makes our garments. The tzitzis. Hainu, sha'oz nizgala al Mordechai ora tzitzis, and through that was it revealed on Mordechai the light of the tzitzis. And that is when he went out, the levush malchus techeles, the light of the tzitzis was shining on Mordechai. He had that because he was working so hard on the concept of Beira Amidam, of clarifying the thought. Tefillah Shebedin. He was working with Esther Amalka. Him and her were working together, and they taught Klal Yisrael. You trust in Hashem. We weren't trusting in Hashem. We were not. We weren't trusting in Hashem, but He taught us to trust in Hashem. And that's why we had the Yeshua. That's why we had the salvation. And we can have the same salvation today. And we should have the same salvation today when we learn to trust in Hashem. That's where our salvation will come from. Shul bechinas levush malchus techeles v'chur. Ki al yedei atfila bechinas din, through turning to Hashem, that way of din again, through din. Al yedei zehu mapelas Haman. That's how we can knock down, and that's how we can eradicate Haman. V'niskale emuna kedosh, and then the emuna is revealed in the world. Ad shezoichin l'chut shel chesed, until we can connect ourselves to the chut of chesed. What's the chut of chesed? That string, the string of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's free chesed, chesed chinam. Bechinas ora tzitzis, which we learned is connected to the tzitzis, which is connected to the harp of David, of Mashiach Tzidkenu, that 72 strings, right? Shul bechinas levush malchus techeles v'chur. V'zeu la Yehudim haisa oira v'simcha. Look at these words, huh? We remember these words every Matzah Shabbos, right? We say la Yehudim haisa oira v'simcha v'sasam v'yikar, right? We say those words. Ir Shushan tzala v'samecha, right? And the city of Shushan was full of joy. Why? Because they now trusted in Hashem. And they saw the salvation that Hashem brought them through their trust. They saw, we trusted in Hashem. We trusted in the tzaddik, Mordechai. We finally trusted in him. And look what happened. Look what we had a salvation. We were going to be eradicated. And look, now we're on top.
Him or Hashem?
You have to believe in the tzaddik through Hashem. You need the tzaddik to teach you to learn of Hashem. Without the tzaddikim, you're not going to know Hashem. Would the Jews have known Hashem without Mordechai?
I don't know. I mean,
wait a second. They didn't. They didn't listen to him all along. But now that they started to trust, it says in what you just said before, "Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdei." Did you just say those words before? That we trusted in Hashem and Moshe. And then we say, Oz Yoshe Moshe, right? We say, I trust in Hashem and I trust in the tzaddik Moshe.
We say it in davening.
Yeah, we say that every morning, right?
Every morning.
You need the tzaddikim. You need to be connected. The tzaddik teaches us how to trust in Hashem. He shows us that Hashem is in the situation. The tzaddik shows, it teaches us. If we don't have the emunah, why are you saying in Shmon Esrei that I believe in the tzaddikim, right? Isn't that one of the blessings you say in the Shmon Esrei? Mishal miftach la tzaddikim. I believe and I have trust in the tzaddikim. Why do we have to say that?
Trust in the tzaddikim?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. We say in the Shmon Esrei.
Yeah. No,
And what do we say in the
it
Shmon?
goes
Yeah.
back-
Yeah. That was in the Torah. All right, one more minute. What? Okay, it's all of us. Bechinas taikev hasimcha shel parim. Sorry, we just got started on this thing. Taikev hasimcha shel parim. This is the power of the simcha parim. Ki ikar hasimcha nimshach min bechinas chut shel chesed. The whole simcha came because we connected to the chut shel chesed. Shul bechinas levush malchus techeles. That's the whole idea of the garments of techeles. That Mordechai yotzam l'fnei hamelech belevush techeles. He went out with the techeles bechinas tzitzis shel ki achut shel chesed. Who bechinas hanigan shalas? That's that song of the future that's going to come with that harp of 72 strings. Shemisham kolas smachis. That's where all simcha comes from. When we trust in Hashem, that's where all joy comes, and that's true joy. Esther chut shel chesed moshach aleh. Esther drew the chut of chesed upon herself. She drew that chut of chesed of Hashem, that chesed chinam of Hashem upon her. Ki zochsa l'chut shel chesed. Why? Because she merited to have the chut of chesed. Why? Because she taught us all to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Kol Tuv.